Welcome back, guys. So we are on it again, and guess what we're doing? More MR2 stuff. So we're back on the 91 MR2. We just wrapped up Crane's engine that you can probably see right here. He needs to come pick this up and keep moving forward with his project. But now I'm back onto my project. So, we really need to get the suspension on the 91 sorted out. It's making a lot of clicking noises on the front. So I really don't know what's going on, and it's obviously, at least for me, it's too high. So this is the 93, and we're trying to get the 91 suspension to kind of be the same as this. So as you can see, my hand, I can barely get it inside there. So this would be about a finger space or a little bit less. So I'm not sure, because these are coilovers, so you can obviously adjust these. On the 91, we're gonna put the factory struts with some H&R springs that we got. So I'm not sure what the height is, but we'll compare it so you guys kind of see the difference, what coilover setup. Obviously coilovers you can adjust to whatever you want, and then we'll see what a stock strut suspension is with H&R lowering springs so we can compare. I don't have the 91 in the garage today. We have the 93 here. The 91 is actually outside. But once we get to putting the suspension in, before we pull everything apart, we'll measure the height so everybody can see the before and after. Now these are with 17-inch wheels. So, it's apples to apples comparison in terms of what the 93 will compared to the 91. But without rambling, all right, we're just gonna keep moving ahead. So here's the 93, looking sharp. Love this car. And we're trying to get the 91 as nice. I love that car too, but let's move on over here. Let's go see what's going on with these springs, and I'll show you. Today's video is really gonna be all about how do we rip the struts apart to rebuild them. I don't have the parts on order. Well, the parts are on order, but they're not here yet. So this is probably going to be a two-part video. So today is just basically how do you tear apart the factory suspension on an MR2, 91 in particular. I think they're all the same except for 94, 95, might be a little bit different. But let's just jump right into it and get started. As with any type of vehicle that you're working on, you're going to need some tools. And if you're going to do suspension, stock suspension on an MR2, SW20, SW21 chassis, you're probably gonna need one of these. So this is a big pipe wrench. I think this is a 24-inch pipe wrench that I got. It's worked well so far, so I'm gonna show you what and why I bought this thing. But what we have here is this set right over here. This is basically the strut pulled apart on one side, which I did, and I left the other side so I can show you guys what's going on. So this is it pulled apart. That is what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna show you how to tear apart the front and the rear, and basically get it ready to be rebuilt. So here we have the springs and H&Rs. Gotta get these cleaned and painted as usual. So right now they're kind of messy, but there's some satisfaction coming with these looking well. But let's start off with the rear over here. So what we have, I'll bring this up to the camera here. What we basically have is a factory strut suspension. So we got the lowering springs here. Now the good thing is, because these are lowering springs, I don't need to use spring compressors to rip this apart because they're basically loose already. There's not much tension on them, so you can actually tear this apart without using the compressors, the spring compressors. So that makes this job very easy. There is a 19mm bolt on the top. This is the strut mount, and then again, this is the rear piece. So we're basically gonna pull this bolt right here, lift everything up, which you'll see, and then we got to pull this glanted nut, is what they call it, to get this insert basically removed so we can put a new one in. Now this is where it gets kind of tricky. That's where this heavy artillery comes in. So let's watch along. Again, this car that these came off for were a Florida car, so we're not anticipating much trouble because it's not really rusty, but I'm sure in the cars that are further up north, you're probably gonna have rust everywhere and it's gonna be a challenge. The 91 was actually from up north, so the good news is I'm not messing with that suspension as yet. I'm just taking this one and putting it in the 91 and removing those parts, but we'll see how it goes. So let's get started. We're gonna go over to the bench here, get to the vise, and start knocking this thing apart. So to get to this thing right here, here's the 19mm nut. I'm gonna put it on, but the problem is if you start turning this thing, this entire assembly is gonna turn And this is a bit loose already because I pulled it, but just want to show you guys what's going on. But if you start to run this thing, then the whole piston here is going to start spinning. So you need to have a way to hold it. Now, this is where it gets kind of debatable, right? Because I believe there's a tool, it's called an SST or something like that. I don't know what the tool looks like, to be honest with you, but I'm working with what I have in the garage here. So I'm going to use this pliers with a rag to wrap around the shaft of this piston. Now technically this is going to be garbage, so I could just throw it on like that without a rag or anything, and if it gets damaged it's not a big deal because I'm going to throw it away anyways, but I'm going to take my time and do it properly. So I'm going to lay this on the side right here, and I'm just going to wrap this thing around the piston, and I'm just going to hold it. Then I'm going to shoot this thing open, right? Now this is obviously coming out very easy because I pulled it already. Not everybody has that luck. So here you go, the nut comes out, right? I pulled this before, I'm just doing it for demonstration here. Here is the strut mount, and inside here, there should be like a little sleeve inside here. But anyways, this looks like one piece. I don't know if that's corrosion or not, but we'll see. And then basically the spring just comes right off. So there you go. So that was fairly easy. The hardest part is really pulling this nut while this thing is spinning. But you know, you get the basic idea. It does come with a bump stop, so you can pull this off. This one is kind of torn, so it ripped off right here. I'm actually going to reuse these. I know you can buy new ones, but it looks okay. I think I'll be fine with what's going on right here. So we'll reuse these when I get the parts ordered. And what I did order was a new insert for this thing. Now, these are oil filled from the factory, so they're not inserts. You'll see when I pull it out. And a lot of people say when this goes down, you're expecting to pop up as the gas ones. In the factory case, it really doesn't pop back up. They say how you check it is, it should come up like this. And it's giving me some resistance here, which I think it's good. But there shouldn't be like any gaps. It should just come up nice and smooth like that. And then it should go down nice and smooth like that. So honestly, I think this is good, but we're gonna change them anyways, right? Yeah, there you go. And I'm gonna pull this apart, but just for demonstration, I have the other side that I pulled out, and this is what it looks like. So you basically pull this out, it's filled with oil, so there's a lot of fluid that's gonna come out of the inside. So that's kind of how where we're at. Now, the hard part is getting this nut off, okay? This is where people run into problems. I'm gonna put this thing in the vise and hope for the best. And you're gonna see, this has not been pulled before, so it might be a quick video, it might be a long video. Let's see what happens. So let's jump right into that part of this process. Before I move over to the bench, I just wanted to show you guys this. So this is the strut mount that we just took off on the rear. Now the one I pulled off before, I just wanted to show you the difference. So it does have this little spacer, and then the nut goes over here. Now here's the challenge. On this one, as you can see, there's just a lot of corrosion. So this thing is like rusted in here. And I really need to try to use back these mounts because you can only get them from Toyota, and they're like 185 bucks. And for the price of what I'm trying to do here, if I have to buy this for 185 bucks along with other parts, it may be just worth buying some coilovers. So this is going back on. So I'm gonna try to get this out. Hopefully this is salvageable. Ooh. But there's a lot of rust in here, and we can reuse it. And if not, if this one is not good, then I'm gonna have to hope that the ones that are on the car are in better shape than this. But I need two rear mounts between this and what's on the car. And hopefully this is just dirt that's collected over the years. Kind of seems like that. But essentially, that thing should be coming out freely, like how it comes out freely right here. So that's what I'm gonna have to contend with. I want to get these painted too, so we'll mess around with it, but I figure I'll show you guys what's going on, because you're more than likely gonna run into these problems, especially if you are here in the US and you live up north, rust is a problem. It's just falling out, okay? All right, so let's get back on the bench as we promised and try to get to that plan nut. Here's my setup. I have the smallest vise available. So it barely fits this strut, and I'm gonna put it in here. Now, ideally you need a bigger vise, and you put this thing like right here, and you should be able to lock this in. I'm not gonna do it like that. I'm gonna throw it in here and hope for the best. So I'm gonna put this thing in here, and I'm gonna tighten it up, and I'm gonna use this piece of wood to prevent it from turning, and you'll see why I did that in a second. So I'm just gonna tighten this thing up, and then we're gonna take our wrench and we're gonna go right here, and we're gonna try to turn this thing off. Now, I already sprayed here with some PB Blaster before, so it's soaking, so hopefully that does the trick. But essentially, I'm gonna tighten this up, use this to block it, so when this thing tries to spin, it has some resistance on this piece of wood right here. And you know, it worked well on the first run, so let's see how well it works on the second run here, okay? All right, let's get to it. I'm gonna get my pipe wrench in place, and I'm basically just trying to pull this nut, and then I'm gonna not just pull it all the way out, because once I pull, like I said, there's gonna be fluid leaking out of this thing, so I gotta control the flow of fluid. So let's see here. It's turning on me. And this one looks like it's gonna give a little bit of trouble, but we'll see. All right, there you go. So I got lucky. As you can see, it's been pulled. I just gotta get it loose where I can pull it by hand. Okay, so that's loose enough. And I think for how this process works, that went pretty smooth. And with the vise, I didn't put too much pressure on it because I'm not trying to damage the body of the strut here. So I just basically fairly locked it in place. So as you can see, not a lot of marring or, it's not denting this thing or anything like that. So now we're gonna pull this thing out, and you're gonna, actually, let me bring it down lower. So we're gonna pull this thing off. And this is the original strut, so I think it was fine, but honestly, I really don't know. So I went with some KYBs. I know everybody buys the Coney yellows, which are the better ones, but again, this build, as I mentioned to you guys, we're on a budget here, so KYBs are gonna have to work for now. And later on, if I'm gonna upgrade, honestly, I'm gonna go with some coilovers. So there's the fluid. There's gonna be a lot more fluid in there, but we're gonna get the bulk of it out here now. And then we gotta get, whoop, there you go. That came out pretty easy. The one before, I kinda had to put a little bit of pressure into it. So this is what your factory rear suspension looks like. And then we just drain all this fluid out and clean up this mess. All right, that went pretty good. I'm very happy with that. So I'm just gonna put the gland nut on back for now. So the rear is done. We got everything torn apart. So we have the strut itself. The piston is out. We're gonna reuse these guys right here. And I was able to kind of clean up most of the corrosion in here. So it looks like it's just dirt and a little bit of rust. I think it should be okay. I'm hoping it's okay to reuse. It's kind of cracked back here, but yeah, we're just gonna hope for the best. If not, well, like I said, we'll try the other ones, see if they're better condition. And we have that. This is the spacer, is all corroded. Again, I think I can clean this up. And we have the nut. So the rear is done. So let's jump right into the front and get moving on that one. Jumping onto the front, and this one I never pulled anything. So, this is supposed to turn freely. It's kind of notchy here. So that's not good. And then as you can see, the mount itself is cracked. So there's some issues going on with this. So that's not good. So I have to replace this mount, which I did order. Again, we have our 19mm nut right in the top here. And when I turn this thing, it's gonna want to spin. See, it's spinning all of this thing here, right? So we're gonna have to hold the shaft and then go ahead and pull this thing, okay? Again, these are lowering springs, so there's not a lot of tension on it. If you had the factory suspension, you definitely have to use spring compressors, because if you pull this nut, this thing's just gonna fly up in the air, okay? I know for the MR2s, it's not crazy tension, but you know, safety first. I mean, it can cause some damage if you don't use a spring compressor on the stock suspension, okay? All right, so let's do the same thing. I have, this one has a sway bar, I didn't pull it off yet. So we'll have to get this off because again, these are all busted. So I ordered some new ones of these as well. So sway bar links, if you're gonna do this job, check these out and just order everything all at one go, because this is definitely busted. All right, so let's go back, rinse and repeat. All right, so I got my pliers holding the shaft, and I'm gonna do the same thing with my impact and make sure it's on reverse. Hopefully you guys can see this. I'm gonna put my foot here. See what's spinning? All right, so let me turn this around so you guys can see what's going on. I'm hoping this is clear for you guys. You're understanding the process and I'm not confusing anyone. So here we go. The mount just kind of fell off, which is good. Some of these things are corroded. And that's what it looks like on the back end. So as you can see, there should be grease. These are all dried out. So this is why you got to change these things, especially if they're original equipment. You know, 30-year-old, they're more than likely they're not going to be good. So this is where a lot of noise comes from, and it just doesn't work too well. So this will get replaced. This is busted. We're gonna lift this piece up. Has this little sleeve on the back, and if you look at here, you'll see there's like a flat portion on the bottom of this perch. So it has to line up with the flat portion. I'll show you right here on the actual piston itself. So when we go to reinstall this, I'll show you guys, so we make sure we get this right, because a lot of people tighten this down and it doesn't slip in the flat spot, and then you end up with noises and it just damages the whole thing, and then this thing gets destroyed. So something to pay attention to. So this comes off, this comes off, and again, we're gonna reuse these bump stops. There should be a piece here that covers this piston. You know, I'm not buying expensive stuff. I'm getting KYB shocks, so I honestly didn't opt for these covers. So we're gonna send it like that. It should work. All right. So let's go back to the bench. Let's do the same thing and hope this one comes out. Now let's see. Let's try this one. So it goes down, and I felt like a little. Well, look, interesting enough. Look at this one. This one is coming back up. The others did not come up, and this is how I know a strut is supposed to work. So we'll see. Maybe when I pull this one out, maybe this shock was replaced. I'll be curious to see what's in there, because the others did not come up. And from what I read, the all ones go down and they stay down. And this one is clearly coming back up. A little bit slow for it to be good, but it's coming back up. All right, and let's see which side is this. It should be written here what side this thing is. Anyways, we'll figure that out. Let's get to the bench and pull this thing out. We're back on the front. Cross your fingers for me that this goes easy as well. I'm trying a different approach with this one. So we're using the vise, but the legs of the strut here are being blocked on the bottom of the vise. So I think we should be good with that. So I'm gonna try that out here and see if that works. one is in there. There you go. That took a little bit of persuasion, but when you got big guns like me, so it's coming. It's loose. It's not 100% loose yet, but it's getting there. There you go. Okay. All right. Let's see what's going on. Bring it down here, and I'm gonna bet that this is probably an insert, but let's see. Could be wrong. Nope, it's the same factory system. So this one went down and it came back up. Those never came back up. So I guess it's safe to say those are shot. I don't know. But either way, these things are coming out. Alright, so this one's a little bit stubborn compared to the other ones that came out. So you guys saw the basic idea. Now we got to get this thing out to here. So what's gonna happen from here, I'm waiting on the parts to get in. They should come in this week, so next video will be reassembly, and I really want to reassemble and get it on the car because I'm excited to see that car lowered and hopefully driving better with this new suspension. I went with KYB XLs. Honestly, I got them on Rock Auto. They're pretty cheap. I didn't want to spend the money for the Coney yellows. And I know I'm gonna get a little bit of fire in the comment section. Maybe I get some fire in the comment section for that. But to me, I've heard, you know, good stories about the Coney yellows with Lawrence Springs, rides great. But I don't know, I just feel like if I'm gonna spend that money, I'll just go with a coilover setup so I can adjust the height as I need to or want to. So I'm gonna try this cheaper option and see. And again, this build is more of a budget build. We just want the car driving nice, kind of like factory OEM. That's kind of like where we're at right now. You know, once we start messing with the engine, maybe later on we'll, you know, beef it up a little bit, do more stuff. But for now, this is where we're at. So let me get this out and I'll show you what this piece looks like empty. All right, so that was a little bit difficult. So what I did, I just put this in the vise, tapped it down and got it out. So we are on our way. We have basically disassembled everything. So at this point, it's really just to get these painted, wait for the parts to come in and reassemble. And we're gonna be good to go. Like, we're gonna be lowered. Car hopefully will drive much better. Because I mean, this suspension was shot. It used to go like this when you're driving. It was just bouncing. And originally I thought it was the tires, but we put brand new tires on rims, balanced out and everything. So it was definitely suspension. So hope you guys like this video. Again, you know, if you've never done it before, I think it will be helpful. You know, I wish somebody had done this so I could have seen it before, but I ventured out and I figured it out, at least tearing it apart, which is always easy. Now let's see putting it back together if we can get it done right. So thank you guys for watching. We're up to 11 subscribers. Tell your friends, we need to grow the channel, help us out here, and I'll see you on the next one.